Hey, I'm Decathlon Gamer, and welcome to a first look video for Tour de France 2022. Now, many of you might be confused by this title because, of course, Pro Cycling Manager has been a longtime staple on the channel, and I, like probably many of you, assumed that the Tour de France title was just simply a French title, or that it was your console title versus PC title for the game, that there was some sort of licensing issue and you ended up with two different name variations of the same game. It's not the case. It's not the case at all. So the Tour de France game is made by the same Cyanide Studios, game development studio, and published by Nacon, the same publisher. The same individuals that work on Pro Cycling Manager, the majority of that team also works on Tour de France 2022. Likewise, there's a ton of overlap between the two teams. There are some individuals that only work on one title or the other and not both, but most of the devs that work on one work on both. And while there's a lot of overlap between the games, they are not the same. They are definitely not the same. Now, the key difference, and this is summary only because there is more than just this difference, but the key difference is that in Pro Cycling Manager, you have limited control in the 3D races over your riders. And yes, you absolutely impact what happens, but it is with limited control. You're telling them how much effort to put in, you're telling them when to attack, you're telling them whether to work with the peloton or with the brake, or you're setting it to automatic. But beyond that, your control is within a fairly limited scope. The key difference is that in Tour de France 2022, you are in direct control of the riders, down to the pedal strokes, down to the handling of the bike, steering, around tight bends and whatnot. So you are in direct control of the rider or riders of your team. One rider at a time, the others are handled via AI, but you are in direct control of one of your riders at any given time. And that is that key difference. And it's confusing because in Pro Cycling Manager, you do have that element of control to a fairly good extent, certainly more so than many sports management games out there. But it is to another level on Tour de France. That being said, I did try this game out last year for the first time and went into that, oh wow, it is totally a different game to that extent. And now let me start with a very quick recommendation. This game was initially a console game where Pro Cycling Manager was, and other than one or two times, has always been a PC game. So one was built for console, one was built for PC. That's where that confusion over the two being the same games. Now, Pro Cycling Manager is still your PC title. But Tour de France, while being made primarily for consoles, has been ported to PC. Now, here is my recommendation for you. The PC version is not well optimized. The file size, for example, has not been compressed at all. And, that's one of the only games you're going to find on Steam that's in that sort of manner. I do recommend, if you are a console owner, pick up the console version. The console version is going to be more well tuned than what you're going to get on the PC, which is more or less a port of the console version. So for that reason, if you have the option, go for it. As I do not own a console, yes, I know, I'm one of those people. I was a console player for many years, but I'm a PC player. And with it being the only option, that's why I'm here. Something noteworthy also is the game in its current state upon release, which of course, when you are releasing with consoles, you have contracts in place, you have to release at a specified time, date, and you have to kind of hold up to that. It is releasing with some bugs. So there is some work that's to be done to this game. That does not mean stay away from it. It just means that know that there are some issues that need fixing. They are working on them, and they will be fixed soon. I have been in contact with the devs and am aware that there are some known issues here upon release. That being said, let's go over a few of the details. Besides the settings, which is behind my face cam at the moment, there is a manual. You also have an editor. So some of the teams are fully licensed, some of the names are accurate, some are not. The editor is a great way to go in and get the real life team names and riders and bring them into the game so that you are racing against the actual peloton. The training mode is a quick tutorial, does not take long to get through, does a lot to teach you the game, and I would strongly recommend using the training tutorial if you have not played this game before, because it does not play like Pro Cycling Manager. Concepts might be the same, but the gameplay is very different, and you need to know this before you jump into a race. So do begin with the training tutorial. But then you have 4 game modes: one-off races and race of the moment. Now these are similar in nature, but the one-off race is just pick a race and go out there and participate. You will unlock races as you go along, as you only start with a few that are available to you, and then you can progress to unlock all races and jump into any race anytime. Race of the moment is IRL, as in what is the race of the moment in real life, and that presents a comparison versus other riders out there, so you can compete against others in how you perform in the race of the moment. And then there's 2 main game modes that both resemble what you have in the alternative Pro Cycling Manager, which is Pro Leader. This is like the Pro Cyclist mode in PCM, where you are taking one rider, that's who you control, and that's who you are developing the career of on whatever team it is that they are a part of. In Pro Team mode, you still manage one rider daily in races, but you are managing the team, the entirety of the team, and handling finances and contracts and managing a race on a whole, strategy on the whole, and then you are just jumping in under control of one rider at any given stage or race. And last year's edition, even months after release, those 2 versions, still on PC anyway, were not functioning properly. So hopefully this year they've worked out the kinks on that. This is largely the same game coming back, just with the new Tour de France, this year's real life edition of the Tour de France stages. 1 new classic added to the game, a few new additional teams added to the game, but otherwise it is coming back as is. So they did a lot of work on stages, but otherwise we're largely seeing the same game. So hopefully they have made those corrections, or at least will have those corrections ready in the next month or so. I would love to get into those 2 game modes in earnest, which we never really got a chance to do last year. So my kind of first take on this game is, please, oh please, let them have addressed some of those PC specific bugs from a year ago, which is also why I gave that recommendation that if you do have console, go with the console version, as it is a lot more fleshed out at this time. At launch, you have 15 different races to choose from, 7 stage races, 8 classics, so Tour de France and the Dauphiné, Paris-Nice, and then a few other variation tours. You have the Euro Tour, the Open Tour, and Provence, and the Briege Cup. On the classic side of things, you can create your own tour, but you have Liège, Bastogne-Liège, Paris-Roubaix, Van Vlaanderen, that's, I think, the full run date, and then Como, Dusseldorf, Imola, Giro de Como, and new one, Primavera Classica. So we're going to go ahead and play the Primavera Classic, and I'm going to ride as Max Cantor for this one. So we're talking about a middle-of-the-road team in Movistar, which of course was one of the best, but they are very much middle-of-the-road these days. And Max Cantor is a young sprinter who Hasn't won a lot of races yet. It certainly isn't known for his strengths, and you can see from his stats we have a 70 flat, 74 sprinted acceleration. Hills, which is a little bit of a part of this race, as well as mountains, are necessary, and they're 65, 57. Downhill's good though at 71. Recovery, not so great. So we're looking at somebody who is somewhere between a sprinter and slight classics rider, more of a domestique at this point. Not well equipped necessarily to do well at a race like this. 300 kilometers, low stamina resistance for him means it could be a tough day, but we're going to see if we can't get him into the top 30.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Northern Italy for the first monument of the cycling season, the Primavera Classica. This is a special race, if ever there was one. 300 kilometers, and very often you have to wait for the final 30 kilometers to see the scenario unfold. With the Cipressa and Poggio climbs, the punchers and their teammates often try to turn the screw in order to eliminate the sprinters, whereas the latter hang on desperately in order to take part in the sprint on the Via Roma at the heart of Sanremo.
All right, so the race is underway, and you can already see right off the bat we're looking at something quite a bit different than what you're going to see in PCM. And that's because I am literally in control of the rider to that much greater degree than what we see in the PCM title. Monument in which this is should be quite obvious to you, but we'll leave it unnamed for possible copyright issues. But I think we're good. Most of the teams are licensed, so you have the majority of the correct riders present here in the peloton for this one. But there's definitely a few teams that aren't fully licensed, so you have variation on the names, just as you do in the race. But what we have here is this circle, and within that circle you're seeing a few things. The yellow is our pedal stroke. It's how much effort we are giving at any given time. Now at the moment what I am doing, and this by the way is a game that gamepad is required. There is no keyboard use. It is built specifically for gamepad use on console, and in the port they did not set up keyboard and mouse functionality, so it is entirely a gamepad only title. So pedal stroke is how much effort you're giving. So as you would in a racing game where you're using right trigger to pedal, you use right trigger to pedal here. And I could very easily just go full gas. I could lighten the load by lessening the pressure, or we could just let off entirely and coast. What I'm doing at the moment, as you can see, we'll take Roglic for a second. So following behind Roglic, see how there is a white bar surrounding him? It's because I'm holding down the X button, which means follow. So I'm in follow mode, and I'm just following Roglic's tempo. So as he moves left, I'm going to naturally move left. As he accelerates, I'm going to naturally accelerate. And inside the yellow bar, or yellow circular pattern, is the light blue one. And in that light blue one, as Roglic is dropping back a bit, and I'm not a huge fan of dropping back at the moment, I like to stay near the front. Behind my teammate Abner Gonzalez here. The blue resembles the yellow bar in PCM. The blue is your long-term effort. If it runs out, you're gonna crash. You're not crash as in fall off your bike, but your energy. You're gonna kind of hit the proverbial wall and lose a ton of pace. Red is your sprint effort. It's your short-term maximum effort. If you run out of red bar, you will stop sprinting. Here you can see we have a left-hand turn on the road, and just maintaining position becomes important. But I just lost the wheel of the guy I was following as a few riders got between us, and so I left that follow mode, so I'm back into controlling the rider myself at the moment. Alright, so with just control of Cantor right now, you can see in the bottom right corner I have his position within the peloton, which is 12th right now, P for being in the peloton, and his profile. And then of course we have the 0% gradient or 3% 0.3% gradient. So that's, you know, the elevation increase or decrease that we are incurring at the moment. Left hand side up in the corner, we have our distance left to go. We have our distance to the breakaway, which is nearly 3.5 minutes behind an individual rider in Vertkin, poor guy, off on his own. That's making our ride very easy right now. We have 174 in the peloton. Now I can break that down. I can look for into the peloton, kind of see who's here. I can see where my teammates are positioned. But let's go ahead and break down another element other than the obvious one, which is the track map that we have on the right hand side. You can see where the peloton is, the one which is the breakaway, and then of course the peloton not showing there behind it. Unlike PCM, we have actual feed zones where we're going to pick up gels, and that is the inner part of my circle that we haven't gone through yet. I have 2 gels. I have the one highlighted yellow right now, which is our blue gel, which means we're storing that long-term energy, and then we have a red gel, which is for that sprint energy. Each time you hit a feed zone, those are going to refill. Anytime you use those up and don't have a feed zone coming up, you are totally without and cannot restore that energy in the short term. One other option though is team communication. So if you are a team leader, which we are, technically I could change to any of the other riders, though I'm planning on not doing so. I really like that concept of controlling a single rider, but we could switch to Aaron Burrow. But not only could we switch to Aaron Burrow, but we could also give him orders. Right now it looks like he's set to protecting Garcia or Serrano, or he could protect me. We could also tell somebody to attack, or we could tell them to use their gels or take over as leader for the stage. Another thing that we could do from here though is we can speed up time. And I'm definitely a big fan of a long, flat, single rider breakaway, simple stage, at least at the moment. I like that idea of just speeding time up a bit and pushing things along. You can see right now we're still barely cruising along. Going back to that yellow circle for a moment as we are speeding up time here. That yellow circle, when it's below the blue mark, the arrow pointing in, it means that you are recovering energy. When it's level, you are maintaining. When you are going beyond, it will slowly drain your energy. And we've been setting a tempo that is at or well below. We're barely pedaling because we're only chasing a single rider who is now out to a 5-minute 40-second advantage. So at this stage, things are much, much too easy. We could go for a specific destination. We can use multiple selections. The top right corner tells you what buttons and kind of what sort of menu options you have. And it is a nice design on that part. Makes things
try to shelter from
pretty
the
easy.
wind so as not to consume energy. This is what allows a rider to edge clear at the end of the race.
Commentator did just make it clear that rider position matters a lot, because being out front means you are not sheltered from the wind, and that is going to impact
The front of
the
the
rider.
race, it's
We're
time
coming
to
up on a
pick up
feed zone,
something
but
to
I've
eat.
not
Another 20
expended
or so
any energy,
kilometres before
so
the riders are
there's
onto
no point
roads
using
with
the
a few
gels
more
right now
slopes.
as we are heading through that feed zone.
Time difference between the peloton and the breakaway is steady.
7 minutes 45 seconds,
The breakaway
but it's
is losing
holding with that
ground.
one now. Now it looks like we are just starting to bring him back in, and we're also starting to go uphill just a little, so we're going to slow things down somewhat and see if there's any change in tempo. Now Remember, Max Cantor, not much of a climber, so we've got to be careful that we don't suddenly use a lot of energy. But looking down, and let's make sure we're focused on Cantor here. Cantor's doing just fine. Tempo's still not bad. We're okay. So we've reached the first climb of the day. I'm going to go ahead and, for the sake of protecting a non-climber as we go through this, I'm going to go ahead and take control and not just speed past this one, at least for the next little bit. Same time, I'd like to improve my position here slightly, so we're going to move forward a little bit. And let's go ahead and get on the wheel of Mads Pedersen. And you're starting to see that just for the simple fact that we are going uphill, even though tempo is not high right now, I mean, we're riding quite gently, but you can see we're pushing a lot harder on the pedals to keep up right now. And that is more to do with the fact that we're climbing, because we're only doing 23 kilometers an hour. We're not going very fast here, but we're at a 4.5% gradient. That steep factor is turning it into a proper climb. So it is draining a little energy. You can see that blue bar is not full any longer, but we're already near the top of the climb, so it's quite clear that we will recover this easily as we descend. And let's go ahead and speed things up again. So with 54 kilometers to go, we are now entering the point where this race is going to get interesting. Breakaway has a 2-minute advantage right now. We're pedaling a lot harder. We are already through the final feed zone, so hanging in there is going to be really important and consuming as little energy as possible. But with tempo, we're already draining that little bit of energy. We want to try to maintain that as best we can, especially on the climbs. We want to minimize our effort. Definitely not a steep hill, but it is 4%. Oh, we're certainly pushing harder than before. You can see we have drained a little bit of energy. We've got a good chance to recover a fair bit of this here. Into the descent. Now, one of the trickier things that you could do through here is arrow tucked to recover energy. But you can see we're not quite steep enough on the descent. We're going to have to gain a little bit of speed and then recover again. And as we do that, we're going to be heading into the next one. But we did recover that energy. Now we've got to just try to recover the position. Alright, so right now I'm locking in my effort, and I don't want to go max effort at the moment. Okay, now into the descent, and let's get that arrow tuck for a moment. Get that conservation of energy. We've already got a bit of recovery there, but we are very much near the back end of the peloton right now, or at least in the middle. 58th. Yeah, we're not that far off. Okay, still have a lot of energy. Obviously, we've used some. But one of the good news is we have our feed. And now's a good time to use that gel a little bit. Just a little. Plenty of gel left.
1 minute.
But the next climb's going to get a little bit harder. Recovery's on. Let's go ahead and push forward a little bit, because they're not pushing as hard right now, so we can improve that position, get back up near the front. Okay, back up to Soren Krag Andersen. And we've got a good position in the peloton and plenty of energy, so far so good. And we've only used just a very small amount of our gels so far. I really like that it's not a use it all at once. Alright, so following behind, you can see uses a wide range. It goes from very little energy to big time energy. It can vary pretty wildly. So position matters a lot here, and you got to be careful. Trying to maintain a steady effort is fairly important on this one. But you can see a lot of guys out of the saddle right now, pushing pretty hard. We're staying in the saddle, but riding a little bit harder. It's draining energy, but not as much as the guys who are getting up out of the saddle are draining. And our position slides back a little bit, but it's not sliding back a lot. Okay, into the descent, and we are coming up on 5.5%. We're gonna go arrow tuck for a little bit and get that recovery in. Let's follow somebody around this corner so we don't crash on our own. Go back into that arrow tuck. And don't get dropped. Hey, follow. Alright, we got a lot of recovery done there, but now we've got to recover our position as well. Very much towards the back, but we've got a good amount of time to do so. And you can see they're riding a lot harder than before. When I have little gaps, I'm going to take them, try to follow somebody through. Get that little acceleration in here and there, but otherwise be kind of in a follow mode. The space here. Okay, we're in behind Laporte now. And let's use just that little bit more gel to help with that recovery. Okay, position's improved. There's Laporte again. That's who we were following. He's moved up, so we've actually improved our position. We're up to 42nd in the peloton, 40th in the peloton now, and we're coming up on that climb. Let's go ahead and gel up again before we actually reach it. Keep that nearly topped off anyway. Here comes the biggest climb, not technically of the day, but the biggest one coming at an important time in the proceedings. Let's go ahead and switch to following Ghana as Laporte looks like he's going to work at the front. I don't want to be all the way up there. 13th in the position. Okay, into Sorpresa.
It's a climb of only 6 kilometers.
5.5K
Sometimes
at
riders try their
4%.
chance from far out, but in recent race history, it's never proven to be decisive for final victory.
What I want to do here is I want to set a firm control of high effort, but not crazy high effort.
A valuable teammate inside the Lotte squad for close to 10 years, the Belgian rider
Vertgen was caught, by the way. He has gone straight out the back as he had nothing left. He's a minute and a half behind. And he is the only rider that has been dropped at this point. So right now we're staying out of trouble, setting a nice, even, steady tempo as we climb up here. Actually, Suderlin kind of pushing to get by, but I'll let him in there. And we're going to back off just a little bit more. Wow, I've gotten to the front here. Not intentionally. Just setting a steady tempo. And nobody wants to go that hard that fast at the moment, so that's fine by me.
He's a pure climber, able to follow the very best when he's in shape.
Alright, definitely more than halfway up the climb now. Now my low tempo is just barely affecting my stamina. It's nice and steady. They're starting to speed up though, so we're going to speed up just a little bit. But I'm comfortable with drifting back a ways here. We're going to be down to just one climb following this. Avoiding the speed up, slow down that is common. Really important on these climbs.
Be a little over 10 kilometers to the foot of the Poggio.
Slowing it down a little bit here as we take these corners. And that's the top.
The front of the race goes over the top of the Cipressa.
Let's follow Van Emden through here. There it goes. Finally locked in on Pedersen. We lost a lot of ground there as we were coming down. I'm trying to set the follow. You have to hold it for so long. You have to be on the wheel with somebody for so long to actually lock that in. We did not get that locked in right away. But look at that recovery. We are looking really, really good heading into that final climb. Let's go ahead and gel up a little bit. Get that back up. Right now, tempo is right at what we can manage, which means guys are not really recovering right now. And hopefully they just didn't manage as well. But this next climb is going to be, you better believe, it's going to be intense. It's going to be a much, much faster tempo. Being 12th wheel is important if we want to finish in the top 30.
Only 5 kilometers before the foot of the Poggio.
5K to go. 5K. Here we go. Pedersen kind of pulling out of the way. But those guys at the front are guys that are working. Pedersen's definitely thinking about the win. Pedersen accelerating a bit. Working on that position. He wants to be in the right place for the climb to come. And the climb's coming soon. We are almost there. 11K to go in the race itself. That's out of 300, so we are right down to the end here. Pedersen dropping back a little bit. Not a fan of how far he's dropping back. Get ourselves forward again. Gel up again here briefly, and we're going to begin the climb.
There will have to be an attack to eliminate the sprinters.
Okay, we're going to start pushing here. You're already seeing the acceleration of the top guys.
Watch out, he's trying to catch up the sprinters.
Mohoric, Valgren on the go.
He's trying to set up on a
There you
counter
go,
attack.
following the next one. Now we're just looking at top 30 essentially. So I'm trying to get myself here in a fast, maintainable position as we climb, and then we will go hard on the descent. Okay, that's the main group going away. That's 12 riders, 13 riders clear. And we have just about made up the
He's
ground.
in trouble. It's not sure that he'll be there for the sprint.
Only a kilometer
See if
left
we can
until
try to
the
make
top
up
of
the ground to
Poggio.
these guys. We do have our red gel. I want to recover just a little bit right now and see if we can get up there with this group. And we
Watch
can.
out, he's trying to get away on a
We are now in the main group. 13 riders, Pedersen clear, plus 12 here. And we are at the top. This is important. We are at the top. We are now into sprint territory from here. It's really steep down here. Following Christoph through. Got to be careful on this descent. There are some tight hairpin turns. I'm not on follow at the moment. But let's accelerate and improve that position. Improving that position again. And we're into second place at the moment. Broke a little too hard there. 2.5K to go. 2.5K to go. We are already on the attack. Going for the finale here. 1.8K. That red bar is getting used up very quickly, but oh my gosh. We are out front by 12 seconds.
Another short effort, and he should manage to cross the line as a winner.
Come on, I have no attack left. I have no attack left. I have no attack left. Throw for the line. And we won it. We won it. Okay, my attack on the descent succeeded. And we just got the victory. Yes. Wow, that was huge. That was huge. Gosh, I think in last year's edition, I maybe won just once. Attacking on that descent worked. I used up that red bar just a little too much, and it wasn't able to recover as a result, and I couldn't use the gel that I had there down the stretch. I don't know kind of what stipulates when you can use it, how you can use it, but in the final K, you're not going to really get recovery. There's that JZ Peloton. We finished by less than a bike length ahead at the finish line. It was incredible. What a ride. All right, folks, so making it onto that move, that key move on the final climb, and then attacking on the descent and conserving that energy continually through the climbs leading up to it. Being in the right position at the base of that last climb, because even though they initially had gotten away from us, we were able to recover that ground as that group was kind of settling in, preparing itself for the final run-in. Everything just well-timed enough to make that all come together and lead to a victory. Fantastic ride there. Fun game, because it's different when you're at the helm, when you are in proper control of the riders, than what you get with PCM. What we need, though, is we need the PC version of the game to get those updates to get working smoothly. The race function worked smoothly last year. The other game modes, not so much. So that's what I'm looking for as we get into this season of Tour de France 2022. But that's going to do it for this first look video. I'm Decathlon Gamer. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Be safe out there, and bye for now.